Me too. So once again, let me welcome you to the very first Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame induction dinner. And I'm going to apologize right now that I'm going to talk for a few minutes. This is our first one, and there's some important things that we need to take care of. A lot of you don't know who I am, and that's okay. My name is Justin St. Louis, and I've been told that I'm president of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame. My parents were fans at Catamount Stadium and Thunder Road. My first race was in May 1983. Mom was still 8 months pregnant with me. We were here at Catamount watching a race, because Catamount is right here, a couple years after that, and little 3-year-old Justin, and I've probably told this story a couple times, little 3-year-old Justin had to go pee. And because it was the 80s and things were different back then, Mom said, just walk down the grandstands, go to the bathroom, and come right back. So I walked down the grandstands, and I didn't miss a lap either, and you got that right. My dad raced for a couple years at Thunder Road, and then I did it in high school, and I wrecked in turn 2 on lap 1, so that tells you how the career went. And all of my teammates are here from that those couple of years, and all of their dads fixed my cars, and I want to thank them for that. I was out of money quickly, so I walked into Tom Curley's office, and at age 19, he gave me a job as his announcer and his publicist at Airborne with 0 experience. And I think he put me at Airborne because nobody was going to Airborne, so if I screwed up, it didn't matter. I've done a lot of jobs in the sport since then. I've worked for some amazing people. Tom, Ken Squire, the staff in Waterbury took me under their wings, and I spent a lot of good years there and a couple of bad years there. Hi, Dar. And then I went to work for Butch and April May at Bear Ridge for a while, and then I spent 10 great years with Mike and Elaine Bruno at Devil's Bowl. And these days I'm in charge of the Sprint Cars and New England Tour. We play in the dirt, we have a lot of fun, we don't make any money, but it's racing like it used to be, and it's pretty cool. I wouldn't be here in this position without the people that I just mentioned, so I want to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity and sticking with me, especially when we don't get along, and I've not gotten along with all of you at different points. But we're all family, and I think everybody in this room has similar stories to mine. But that's enough about me, because nobody cares. This night is about you. And we have a place to celebrate you, finally. The Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame was a dream that I had during COVID, when everybody else was locked inside. I wanted to do something, and I had this dream as a kid too, that I wanted to be in the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame. I wanted to win a Milk Bowl, I wanted to win an ACT championship, and I wanted to be a Cup driver by the time I was 30. There were 2 things that stopped me, and the first thing was, like I said, I'm a horrible race car driver. The second thing was that there was no Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame. This organization is the culmination of lifetimes of work by everybody in this room. Whether you're a member of the class of 2025, or you're a fan who just found racing for the first time, or if you're somewhere in between, it doesn't really matter how long you've been doing it, the path is the same. We're here because we love racing, and we are fully and completely committed to it, and we honor its past, and we're excited about its future. For 9 particular people, tonight's ceremony is a tangible symbol of those lifetimes of work and effort and commitment. Our charter class could not be a more perfect representation of what this Hall of Fame is intended to be. It's a diverse group of people that represents what racing in Vermont has to offer. We have elite competitors and organizers and contributors from all disciplines of racing in this room, and just a couple of minutes ago we were trying to add up the number of wins in this room, and it's 1,200, 1,500 wins sitting in these tables. It's amazing. To John Buffum, to Tom Curley, to Beaver and Bob Dragon, to CV Elms, to Shirley Muldowney, to CJ Richards, to Ken Squire, to Gardner Stone, and very importantly, I might add, to their support systems, the wives, the girlfriends, the spouses, the children, the parents, the families, the friends, the teammates, the sponsors, and the fans of those people. We offer our heartfelt congratulations. You have done all the hard work, so celebrate that as we celebrate you tonight. To our very first Racer of the Year, Brandon Gray, and his network of family and friends. It seems only fitting that a third-generation Vermont racer would be the first one to accept this award. You've had an incredible run the last few years, Brandon, and this year was no different, but enjoy tonight. Tomorrow, get focused on 2026. Like I said, this was a COVID dream. In the spring of 2020, I was sitting in the living room as my daughter was crawling all over me in the recliner, and I said, we need something to do. After a bunch of years of what ifs and jotting down notes and sending emails and trying to get this thing off the ground, we finally had our first meeting over Zoom on March 5th of 2024. We were fortunate to have Governor Scott unveil our name and our official logo on March 30th of 2024 at the Vermont Motorsports Expo in Barrie, and that was also live on Ken Squire's WDEV. We revealed our first class of inductees at the Expo this past March in White River Junction, and then tonight, December 6th, 2025, our first induction ceremony. Our committee, I want to thank them. They are made up of incredible people who are as dedicated to this sport as anybody that you're going to find, and a few of them will likely end up on this stage accepting awards in the very near future. Not everybody was able to attend tonight, but I do want to recognize them all, and I ask that they please stand up as I call their names. Our treasurer is Marty Kelly. Our members at large, Seth Achilles, Nipper Alsop, Paul Belfay, Big Bigelow, Tom Herzig, TJ Ingerson, Bill Laddebush, Steve Longchamp, Alan Maynard, Mark McKeown, Dave Moody, John Nelson, Ashley Squire, and Alan Ward. Thank you, guys. You guys pushed me forward, you kept me motivated, and by the way, 2026 is very soon, so we're gonna have another meeting very quickly. Like any good race team, I gotta thank my sponsors. We're fortunate to have gained support from a bunch of folks who understand the value of what this undertaking means and what it represents. So specifically, our gratitude goes out to G-Stone Motors in Middlebury and the Stone family, Goss Cars in South Burlington and the Hoare family, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and by the way, its VP of Operations and Development is a Vermont native, Matt Gosland. The NASCAR Hall of Fame and its director, Winston Kelly, supporting us. New England Racing Fuel, John Holland and Mike Joy. Thunder Road International Speed Bowl, the American Canadian Tour, Chris Machad and Pat Malone. Bear Ridge Speedway, CV Elms III and April May Preston Elms. Dan Carney's Used Cars and RV Center in Center Rutland and the Carney family. I don't know where Dan is, but thank you, Dan. 802 Print, which is my job, in Virgins, and the Lutton family. They've helped out tremendously with this project. Marcotte and Sons Auto Village and the Village Tavern and Cafe in North Ferrisburg. The Stove Depot and the Merrill family, Interstate All Battery Center in Rutland and Babe Keith and his family, VT and New Hampshire Racing News, Caston Hodgins' team, who are a bunch of kids who remind me of myself 25 years ago. And there's several other anonymous donors that I'm not going to call them out by name, but you know who you are. You made contributions large and small, and we thank all of you. I mentioned them earlier before we had dinner, but it is impossible to overstate the importance of Vermont sports car. Holy cow, what a facility. We wanted to establish from the outset of this project that the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame is more than just stock cars. I know a lot of us in this room are roundy round people, but there's a lot more going on in this state than just that. We're looking at everything, and I mean everything, and our conversations have included go-karts and demolition derbies and snowmobile grass drags and hill climbs and snowmobile water drags for some reason. Whatever else you can think of with an engine, people race these things and they win in these things and they deserve to be recognized. And I think you can tell by the roster of this year's class, we kind of nailed it. But on top of that, being here in this building tonight gives the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame crucial legitimacy. This place is obviously a physical space that is beautiful, and that's nice. But being in a place that isn't familiar to most of us represents where we're trying to go with this organization. This is out of our comfort zone, but this is the place we need to be. There's no doubt in my mind that Lance Smith, the founder here, will one day walk across this stage very soon. Lance. And he'll be inducted into this Hall of Fame for the many things that he has accomplished in rally racing and everything else that he's done. But this building and this team have got to be the pinnacle of that achievement. Lance also shares the vision that we have, and I believe that all of us here tonight know how important it is to celebrate and, yes, even compare different forms of motorsport and appreciate each other's accomplishments. There's no place on the planet that could be more meaningful for this event to take place. This is not a random hotel conference room or a stinky old VFW with a bingo board and bowling trophies on the wall. The racing is created in this room where you sit. This is the top. Besides that, I don't know about you, but it did my soul some good to turn off Route 7 in Milton and come to a racing event. It's pretty cool. I have endless appreciation for my wife, Linda, who has listened to me talk about this project for 5 years, and to our kids, Evelyn and Mackenzie, for giving me the time and the support to work on it. And if you heard my story just now and you think I'm a heck of a guy, well, she just 5 days ago, on Monday of this week, opened a $12 million new preschool that she designed. Oh my God. She designed it, she raised the money for it, and she built it herself. And still finds the time to put up with me and pass out tickets. Thank you. I'm going to cry a lot tonight. Again, thanks to the people who've given me an opportunity to be here, to learn, to work, to make mistakes, and to quite literally grow up in this sport. A lot of you are being inducted tonight, and many more in this room, like I said, have a story similar to mine because of you. And I have no doubt that they'll eventually be inducted as well. There's a lot of people in this room that deserve to be on this stage. And I don't brag on myself. I think that the title of president is a little self-congratulatory, but believe me when I say that this role is my favorite one that I've had in racing. And I wouldn't be in this position without those people taking a chance on me as a kid. Thanks to the racers, the competitors who grabbed my attention at 3 years old when I was peeing in front of the grandstands. They never let go of that attention. I'm still fascinated watching a race car go around a corner and make it out the other side. And I so deeply admire the person behind the steering wheel making it happen, and the person in the shop during the week, and the person making sure there's sandwiches in the cooler. Let's celebrate this night together. Let's look forward to many more years of honoring the people who've made what we feel is real history. The Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame exists because of you. So now, without further delay, let's get to the inductions. We're going to go in alphabetical order by last name because that's just easier. And you can follow along in your program as we roll along. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, the green is out for the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame. Quite simply, John Buffum is America's greatest rally driver. Born in Connecticut but raised in Vermont since he began racing out of Vermont since 1964. He won 24 national championships in the US and Canada and 123 national and international events in 6 different countries. His accomplishments as a constructor, as a car owner, as a team manager, the number balloons to 60 championships. It's unbelievable. He started with the Sports Car Club of Vermont in time-speed distance events like autocross, gymkhanas, hill climbs, while studying at Middlebury College. He got his first taste of international competition at the prestigious Monte Carlo Rally in 1969, while stationed in Germany as a lieutenant in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. As the only American entry in that race, he overachieved with an impressive 12th place finish. Since Pro Rally didn't exist here in the States yet, though, when he returned home in 1970, he formed his own team, Libra Racing, And he had the road courses with IMSA and SCCA. Driving a Ford Escort, he was the SCCA 2.5-liter national champion in 1973. When Pro Rally came to North America shortly thereafter, John Buffum began setting records that may never be approached, let alone broken. They called him Stuff'em Buffum, I think for a reason, because he was, like me, a little tough on equipment, but that changed pretty quickly. From 1975 through 1987, he won 11 out of 13 SCCA Pro Rally National Championships. He won 3 straight crowns with the North American Rally Racing Association, 9 North American Rally Cup titles, and during that period, he was a factory driver for both Triumph and Audi. Right there. John Buffum and Audi were sensational in the 80s, highlighted by back-to-back victories at the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. He became the first and remains the only American to win an FIA European Rally Championship event, taking the Sachs Rally in 1983 and the Cyprus Rally in '84. He was also a podium finisher when the World Rally Championship came to the U.S. in the insanely dangerous Group B cars at the Olympus Rally in 1986. He was undefeated in 1987, 7 SCCA Pro Rally events, and he won them all to win his final title before stepping away from driving full-time and becoming SCCA's manager through 1992. He was then president of the American Rally Association for 2 years. He was chief steward of New Hampshire's famous Mount Washington Climb to the Clouds for 11 years, serving an integral role in getting the iconic event reestablished. All the while, John Buffum guided his stepson, Paul Schwanier, with factory pro rally rides and later with Audi and later Hyundai. I'll get through it. The Liebherr Racing Team netted Schwanier 53 wins and 8 more SCCA national titles, as well as a Canadian championship and 3 NARC crowns. Buffum drove occasionally through 2008, winning 16 events during that span, including the 1995 Rally of Incas in Peru, where he shattered the record by 2 hours. He was also, during that time, a reporter for ESPN. You might have seen him on TV. Vermont Sports Car hired John Buffum in 2004 to launch the careers of megastar extreme sports athletes Travis Pastrana and the late Ken Block as they began their transition into rally with Subaru North America. Buffum went back to Liebherr Racing in 2009 to guide Mitsubishi driver Antoine Lestage, winning a Rally America Championship and 5 Canadian titles. He then came back here to Vermont Sports Car in 2014 as rally manager, and since that time, the team has won 10 national championships. Tonight's induction into the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame is his 6th. He's already a member of the prestigious Road Racing Drivers Club, the SCCA Hall of Fame, the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame, the New England Auto Racers Hall of Fame, and the Vermont Sports Hall of Fame. So let's add one more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the charter class of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame, John Buffum. Before you get your turn, we're bringing Lance Smith to come on up and say a few things.
He's going to say something.
Hi, I'm Lance Smith, and welcome to the house that Rally built. John Buffum has been a friend of mine now for, I would say, 40 years. And I'm here to thank John for all the wisdom and all the effort he gave me as a very young man trying to get involved in motorsports. But what I'm most thankful for John about is passing on the passion of motorsports to all the people that he met. And this crowd here, all the drivers and teammates that are here, you all do that. Okay? Everybody tells a story and everybody is excited. And John passed the passion to me. And I learned, I was amazed, and I was shocked. And to this day, it still has me. Unbelievable. So if it wasn't for John, none of this would be here. Anyways, thank you, John, for passing it on. Good.
Thank you, Lance. Yeah, let's see what Lance has here. In Burlington, Vermont, or the Burlington, Vermont area, I can't believe, and maybe other people can't also believe, the quality of the place he has there that he's put together and his people have put together. It's great. And I don't have a lot to say. Thank you for all of this. I know most everybody here is a stock car oriented person, so I'm happy to be like the odd apple out here, so nice. I do have one other thing. Those of us older people may remember in 1974.
There we go. I know what you're going to say.
You want me to say that? Okay, so I saw Bobby for the first time in 30 or 40 years or whatever. Bobby and I had a great race, 7-lap race at Catamount. He and his stock car, similar to that one, and me and my BMW. We had a great race, had a great time. It was a very nice, enjoyable time. It was nice to see him again.
Thanks to Justin for putting this together.
I think John won that race, didn't he, Bob? No? Okay. Tom Curley, without a doubt, one of the most influential promoters in North American motorsports, and undeniably one of its most colorful characters. I see a lot of head shaking, yes. A Maine native who attended Norwich University, he listened to Ken Squire call Thunder Road races live on WDEV, and it ignited a curiosity. After graduation, he became a teacher at Montpelier High School, imagine that, and gave racing a try at Catamount Stadium. He started out in the Flying Tigers, and he jumped up to the NASCAR Modifieds, and his tendency to crash earned him the nickname T-Bone. He hung up his helmet, but he did keep the nickname, and he and Ken became business partners in 1967, opening T-Bone's Dixieland Jazz Steakhouse in Mallett's Bay, and a second location at the North Turn on the old Beach Road course in Daytona Beach. After the restaurants closed, Kenley sold Thunder Road, and he hired Tom in 1978 to manage Catamount Stadium. The following year came Tom's creation, the NASCAR North Tour. It was a wild success with big purses, the best drivers, and a geographical footprint. I used Google Maps for this, spanning 1,200 miles east-west from Lake Huron to the Canadian Maritimes, and 800 miles north-south from St. Felicia in Quebec to Dover, Delaware. Thunder Road's new owner, Tommy Calamiris, defaulted in just 6 weeks, and the place was closed. Curley and Squire won the deed back after 4 years of legal battles and reopened the nation's site of excitement with an explosion in popularity, averaging 6,000 race fans on a regular Thursday night with more than 100 cars in only 2 divisions. And yes, I have a Band-Aid on my finger. Proudly and fiercely Irish, Mr. Curley's fiery personality often sparked some controversy. A scoring dispute in 1985 led to a lawsuit with NASCAR and Randy LaJoie on one side, and Mr. Curley and Robbie Crouch on the other. NASCAR fired Mr. Curley and dissolved the NASCAR North Tour, but he immediately responded by creating the American Canadian Tour and the Stock Car Connection, a national touring series for short tracks, the first of its kind. Though the Stock Car Connection only lasted 2 years, it planted Tom Curley on the map as a risk-taker and a revolutionary thinker in the industry. NASCAR realized their mistake immediately and fought back in 1987 by creating the Busch North Series. Catamount closed that year due to urban development, but Mr. Curley's portfolio grew. Thunder Road received $1 million facelift. He and Ken bought the Airborne Raceway in Plattsburgh, and by the mid-90s, Tom held either the lease or the sanctioning rights at Beech Ridge, Oxford Plains, Riverside Speedway in Groveton, New Hampshire, San Air Superspeedway, and St. Felician, along with several regional tours on either side of the border. ACT had major support from GM of Canada, from Coors, and then Budweiser. And Junior Hanley averaged more than $250,000 in winnings every year, 1991, 92, and 93, racing on ACT. But then it all collapsed. The Canadian economy fell apart in 1994, and the Oxford program fell apart in 1995 due to unmet financial obligations by, what is it, Moody, a $50 haircut on a $5 head? Michael Liberty.
$2.
Oh, there you go. The price went down. Tom Curley shut ACT down at that point and started over yet again, focusing on his weekly operations at Thunder Road and Airborne. In the process, he just happened to revolutionize short track racing by backing away from super late models, very expensive rule books, and adopting the modern late model format. He revived the ACT brand in 1998, and the next year the spec concept was introduced as a cost-saving measure to govern engines, tires, shocks, transmissions, bodies, and on and on. By the end of the 2000s, just a decade later, there were 300 late models and 12 tracks in the Northeast fully immersed in that program. Mr. Curley ruled with an iron fist. I know that. I quit twice and I was fired once. But he demanded that drivers give the race fans a respectable show. He was a magnetic public speaker, and his pre-race pit meetings were the stuff of legend, as he often used toy cars. It was a Tony Stewart car and a Bobby Labonte hamburger helper car. And he would illustrate the proper way to race, or how not to race. If he didn't have the cars, he used that pen and a notepad. He also gifted the world with the piggy flag, which is exactly what it sounds like, a pink flag with a drawing of pig on it. And if a driver was deemed to be hogging their lane, they were shown the piggy flag. If they did it again, they were shown the piggy flag again. If they did it again, the flag was black. If a race was getting out of hand, with crashes and with rough driving, Tom would throw the red flag, and he would march down the grandstands, and he would get the drivers out of their cars on the front stretch and read them the riot act, and maybe break an umbrella on the hood for good measure. They either cleaned it up or the division was thrown out completely the next week, and that happened at least twice that I saw. Tom Curley was named the North American Auto Racing Promoter of the Year in 2004, an award voted on 1,000 members in the Racing Promotion Monthly Group. He and Ken Squire sold Airborne in 2007 and Thunder Road in the spring of 2017, about 2 weeks before his passing. Ladies and gentlemen, in the charter class of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame, Thomas Michael T-Bone Curley. And accepting on his behalf tonight, please welcome his daughter, Kate Lynch.
Got room, George? Thank you so much to the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame for this extraordinary honor. On behalf of my father, Tom Curley, the man who spent more than 50 years building, promoting, and loving short track racing in the state, the Green Mountain State, we gratefully accept his induction into the inaugural class of 2025. Joining me on stage are 3 of my dad's 6 grandchildren. We have Lila Lynch, who's 22. We have George Curley, who's 20, and Kevin Curley, who's 18. You know, Dad loved the show, and some of you really understand that. And actually, he loved every kind of show. He loved watching the dogs run off-leash on the beach at sunrise. Whether he was in Toronto or New York City and the lights came up, he loved the opera. Dad even loved the Ginsu knife guy at the Champlain Valley Exposition. And Lord help us, he really, really loved Soak the Bloke. When it came to racing, Dad was in it for the roar of the engines on Thursday night, for the kids in the crowd dreaming of their first feature win, and the families who made Thunder Road and the American Canadian Tour their second home. Dad believed that Vermont could produce the toughest, fairest, and most passionate racers anywhere. And he dedicated his life to proving it. Tonight, Dad would have been both humbled and proud. Proud of every driver, crew member, official, sponsor, and of course, the fans who have kept this sport alive in the Green Mountain State. This Hall of Fame victory is as much theirs as it is his and all of the worthy inductees. So thank you for remembering Dad this way. He's probably up there somewhere with his stopwatch in hand, grinning, because Vermont racing finally has a forever home. We love you, Dad. This one's for you, and thank you all very much. Just waiting on Moody.
Yeah, waiting on Moody.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
No matter where you go, everyone with even just a passing interest in American motorsports has heard the name Harmon Beaver Dragon and wondered, what the hell is a Harmon Beaver Dragon? I'll tell you, the eldest of two brothers in racing, he had a half-century run of success and has always been a keen ambassador for the sport. That's what a Harmon Beaver Dragon is. Beaver started running a 1937 Buick full of nitromethane on the dirt at Mallett's Bay Speedway in Colchester and Otter Creek Speedway in Waltham down by my house in the late 1950s and the early 60s with the support of local garage owner Johnny Bourgeois. Perhaps unsurprisingly, with his name and his driving, Beaver was immediately popular with fans and racers alike. He was a winner in those early days before shifting to the pavement at Thunder Road, at Catamount Stadium, and at Northeastern Speedway near St. Johnsbury. After winning the NASCAR Vermont State Championship in the Flying Tiger class in 1965, Beaver shocked the NASCAR Modifieds here at Catamount on June 4th, 1967, one of the greatest moments in Vermont racing, when he became the only Vermont driver to ever win a NASCAR Modified feature and the only driver to win one with a sportsman entry. He locked up the Sportsman Track Championship later that year. Beaver moved down to Devil's Bowl Speedway for a period, racing modifieds on both dirt and asphalt, and then he joined the late model sportsman ranks in 1972 for the 5 nights a week Northern NASCAR circuit. He was an instant force, winning regularly at Catamount, Devil's Bowl, Thunder Road, and especially in Plattsburgh at Airborne Park Speedway. Beaver's 1973 championship at Airborne earned him an invitation to compete in the 74 Permatex 300 on the high banks at Daytona, where he finished a respectable 22nd. He was the Airborne champion again in 1975 and captured the Northern NASCAR Circuit Championship that year as well. The NASCAR North Tour replaced the circuit in 1979, and Beaver was the man to beat. Driving the gorgeous Quint Boivay-owned Black Magic Nova, he won 9 out of 27 races, 1/3 of the schedule, and became the Tour's first champion. He backed it up for good measure with a second title in 1980. He also made the new Sanair Super Speedway up in Quebec his personal playground, winning 4 times there, including the first race ever held on the Tri-Oval in 1983. Between the NASCAR North Tour and the American Canadian Tour that followed it in 86 through 95, Beaver won 22 tour races and ranked in the top 10 in points every year that he ran the full schedule. In addition to his 2 titles, he finished 2nd or 3rd in the point standings 5 times, a remarkable record of consistency. His most famous moment, of course, we got to talk about it, was not one of his victories, but it came at the final race at Catamount, the 1987 New England 300, when during his heat race he flipped end over end down the front stretch in front of 10,000 people and national TV cameras. Everybody thought there was a dead beaver in that car, but he crawled out of the wreckage. The only injury that he suffered was to his knee getting out of the car. Duct taped a number on the backup car, went out, qualified through the Conti, and he ran all 300 laps of the race, finishing 11th. Why are you laughing, Robbie? Beaver began to curtail his career, yes, tail, in the mid-90s. That's a Squire thing. I got that from Ken. After a brief stint on the Busch North Series, he scored his final win in a late model at the Malone Raceway Park in 1996. Beaver performed in high-profile cars his whole career for no less than 20 different race teams. He raced sporadically into the late 2000s while guiding his son Brent, and he remains a visible presence in the pit areas at races around the region. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the charter class of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame from right here in Milton, Harmon Beaver Dragon. Beaver, we got a 30-minute time limit on the speech, okay?
First of all, I guess I'd like to thank Vermont Sports Car for this beautiful facility and having this first annual Hall of Fame here. I think it deserves to be here, especially when 300 feet up the road here, that's where the racetrack was. But anyways, this is a beautiful place, and I wish we had a race car shop like this when I was racing. But anyways, thanks to them. Thanks to Justin St. Louis for putting this on with his crew, the first Hall of Fame. You know, I mean, I'm glad to be in the first hall. There's probably a lot of others that deserve it better than I do, but anyways, I'm in. Probably my last one, but whatever. And I got another thanks to my wife, Jane, my daughter, Michelle, Brent, and his wife, June, for helping me along the way. Without them people, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did. And also, you know, I had a lot of different car owners that I drove for. I did have a couple of cars myself. Like Justin was saying, that modified car, that sportsman car that I beat all the modifieds with, I got that from Norm Sear, and that was a real nice car. And I did start on the pole that night, but the bigger modifieds did not beat me. And I guess I'm the only one that's ever done that, but whatever. But I had fun doing what I did. I raced like pretty near 42 years, and I think one of the highlights of my career was racing at Daytona. I got a chance. One year I was a track champion, a NASCAR track champion here, and in the wintertime, Bob Baer called me up, the owner of New Hampshire International Speedway, and he says, you know, he said, you're a NASCAR champion, and he said, you have a guaranteed start in the Permatex 300 at Daytona if you can run 150 miles an hour. And he says, would you like to drive my car at Daytona? And I said, Bob, I said, I've never seen a racetrack bigger than a half mile. But I said, yeah, I would like to try it. So me and my owner of my car at the time, Paul Robar, we got on an airplane, we flew to Daytona. Of course, on the way down to Daytona on the airplane, we had a few beers. And the first thing when you get to Daytona, if you're going to go on the racetrack, you have to have a physical. Well, I didn't think nothing about that, but anyways, I get to Daytona and I'd had a couple beers, and I wasn't drunk or nothing, but I'd had a couple beers, and so I went for my physical, and I didn't pass. My blood pressure was too high. So the guy says, did you drink coming down on the plane? I said, yeah, I had a couple beers. He says, yeah. He says, your blood pressure's too high and I can't let you go on the racetrack today and practice. Boy, I said, this is a great way to start this off. But anyways, so he says, go back to your room, he says, and don't drink no more. He says, and come back tomorrow. And he said, you'll probably be all right. So I did. I went back, and the next day I passed the physical, and we started practicing. And I had no idea what the hell I was doing down there. I mean, at this speed. And you had to go at least 150 miles an hour to qualify, to get in. The first time on the racetrack, I ran 163. But I still didn't know what I was doing. I just could not make myself hold it to the floor all the way around. And I knew there was guys that were doing that. Bobby Allison was one of them. And in between practices, we'd have to go to a NASCAR driver, and at that time it was Benny Parsons, and he'd tell all the rookies that were in this race what to do if you see something happening ahead of you. If you see a car spinning out ahead of you, try to hit that car. Not at 180 miles an hour. But he says, because that car will be gone by the time, it'll be washed down off the racetrack by the time you get there. Yeah, okay. So anyways, I kept practicing, and I still could not make myself hold it to the floor. And I knew Bobby Allison was doing it. And I told, finally at the end of the class, Benny Parsons says, has anybody got any questions? And I said, yeah. I says, I do. I said, Benny, I said, I know there's people out here. It's not only Bobby Allison. There's, you got Butch Lindley and people like this in this race, and they're holding their cars to the floor all the way around. He said, yeah. He said, they are. And he says, have you tried it? And I said, I can't make myself do it. He says, well, if you get in the race, which you probably will get in the race, he said, you probably will try it during the race. Yeah, maybe. So we started the race. I started 40th out of 43. And the 5th lap of the race, I hadn't passed nobody and nobody passed me. But I said, well, I gotta do something different. So I said, I'm going to try holding to the floor. This is going to be a hell of a crash, or I'm going to make it, one or the other. And I did it once, and it was easy. It was no different than what I'd been doing, and the rest of the day went pretty good until we had to have a pit stop. There was no radios in the car back then. You had to read a pit board when you went through the tri-oval. I couldn't even see the pit board say anything about reading it. And you could come down, there was no restrictor plates on the carburetors then. You could come down pit road as fast as you wanted to back then. And I said, well, this is pretty good. Well, when I peeled off to get down pit road, I had one of the easiest pit stops on the pit road, because my pit was right next to the American flag, and I could see that as I'm going down pit road. It looks like looking from here to Burlington. I mean, pit road is that long. Well, so I held it wide open halfway down pit road, and I come to slow up to stop. The brakes burned up. We had drum brakes, didn't have no disc brakes back then. I went right by. So now I got to go all the way back around again and come back in again. And of course I lost what I'd gained. And when we got through, I did finish the race, and I finished, I don't know, I was somewhere in the 20th or 15th or 20th, something like that. And they thought I'd done a hell of a job, and I didn't think I'd done nothing. I mean, but it was fun. It was fun. I would have loved to have gone back with what I learned, and but I never got the chance, and so we ran around here, and we did pretty well around here, and without all the people that helped me, I wouldn't have done so well. So anyways, thank you to everybody that helped me. Thanks a lot.
All right. What, are you good? I'm good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. One more thing for you, baby. One more thing.
Vermont's most prolific winner on asphalt, Bobby Dragon, may have entered the sport in the long shadow of his older brother, but he quickly found his own spotlight and became a staple of short track racing. His legacy is one of many victories, a wheelbarrow full of championships, a friendly demeanor, and a strong team of friends and family. Bobby briefly raced at the Milton Dragway, and then he found a home when the Catamount Oval was built. After starting out in a bit of a roughshod Flying Tiger in 1965, he came out swinging in 66. He grabbed his first win in May of that year. He won again the next week, and then again, and again. In fact, the first 6 wins of his career came in consecutive weeks at Catamount Stadium. By 1969, he was the track champion. He was winning races at Thunder Road, and he earned the 5-race NASCAR Silver Cup Championship. The Dragon brothers left Catamount in 1970 to race on the dirt down at Devil's Bowl, and while racing against the well-established dirt late model runners like Timmy Baker, Eddie Keenan, Johnny Bruno, and Barry Purdy, Bobby won a couple of features himself. Devil's Bowl and Airborne were paved in 71, and Bobby jumped to the open-wheel modifieds to run the CVRA circuit, often facing against guys like Richie Evans, Denis Giroux, Dick Nephew, the biggest stars of the era. The Northern NASCAR circuit late models replaced the modifieds the next year, though, in 72, so Bobby was back in full force, in full fenders, running Devil's Bowl, Airborne, Catamount, Thunder Road, and traveling north to Saint Air, those 5 tracks every week, along with specials in Quebec at places like St. Croix, Mont-Laurier, Laval, Dumontaine, Val-Belair, down south to Seekonk on the Massachusetts seacoast, Maine's Oxford Plains Speedway, and other tracks. That red 71 decimated the competition, winning 22 features in 1972 and 24 in 1973. He finished 9th in NASCAR national points both years. Consider that the South races 3 months longer in the spring and 3 months later in the winter. Perhaps one of his crowning achievements came on August 26, 1973, when he won the Molson 400 at St. Air in the afternoon, hooked up and hauled the same car down to Plattsburgh and won the 30-lap feature that night at Airborne. He earned his 100th career victory in 1977. He was the champion of the Northern NASCAR circuit 3 times. The circuit then morphed into the NASCAR North Tour in 1979, and while he was not always a full-time runner on the tour, Bobby did win 17 races. It was also during that period that he diversified his experience a bit, racing the Lloyd Severance Modified with a top 5 finish at Martinsville among his achievements. He also finished 3rd in his NEMA Midget debut at Monadnock Speedway in New Hampshire. When the NASCAR ACT split happened after 1985, Bobby and his car owner Mo Brown stuck with NASCAR, racing the new Busch North Series full-time and also running select events down south on the National Busch Series. And they earned top 10s at Bristol, at Dover, at Darlington, at Charlotte, and up here at the Oxford 250. It's not bad for a little team out of Vermont. Bobby enjoyed a long Busch North career through 2004, winning 14 times, including the mile at Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and the legendary road course at Watkins Glen, New York. As his NASCAR efforts wound down, he raced late models a few times each summer, scoring his final victory at New Hampshire Star Speedway in 2008 at age 62. All told, Bobby Dragon won 145 feature races at a remarkable 28 different tracks in 7 states and in Quebec. He won 4 championships here at Catamount and ranks first all-time there with 53 career wins, 3 King of the Road crowns, 2 titles at St. Air, 2 at Devil's Bowl, 1 at Airborne, 4 NASCAR Vermont State Championships, 1 more in New York, and he was the face of the Northern NASCAR circuit with 3 titles and an amazing 83 wins during that era. Bobby and his wife Veronica are still ardent race fans and support their son Scott, who is a 2-time late model champion himself at Thunder Road. And we welcome tonight to the charter class of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame, Milton's own Bobby Dragon.
I'd like to start off with congratulating all of the inductees here tonight. Certainly a diverse group, to say the least, and I've enjoyed talking to so many people that I haven't seen in quite a while. In some cases, I had to ask who I was talking to, but I guess that's part of the deal at this point in time. My start, as far as racing goes, if you were a car guy back in my day, and like cars, you had a garage, a repair shop, a filling station that you kind of hung out at, and that was what I did through high school, working summers, after school at night, one thing or another, pumping gas, changing oil, busting tires, one thing or another. But at the same time, at that point in time, Beaver was racing. Been at it for 2 or 3 years, and I was helping out, but no real aspirations of doing it myself, truthfully. But anyways, graduating from high school, it was time to get a job and get to work full time. And during the fall of the year, one of my good friends that hung out at Bourgeois Texaco in Milton, that we all kind of hung out at, was a guy named Ernie Price. He was from Pittsfield, Mass. He was stationed at the radar station in St. Albans in the Air Force, and he was a Chevy guy. He helped out Beaver at the time, who was running a late model, our Tiger car, basically, at Airborne and Catamount. And but Ernie was a Chevy guy, not a Ford guy. And he said, and I was fresh out of high school at that point in time, got a job working in Burlington, and he said, I think we can build a Chevrolet that will beat that Ford of your brother's if you want to drive it. He said, he came from working on some of his friends' dirt cars at Lebanon Valley when he was at home in Massachusetts, and he wanted to stay involved. So I said, well, yeah, maybe that's something I can probably do. And so John was for it. We built a '55 Chevy in the back room of the Texaco garage, and through the winter months, and then during the spring of the year, I got hired by IBM. That was the fall or the spring of 1965, 60 years ago, and so in taking the job at IBM, I was shipped off within a few days to the Hudson Valley in New York to learn work on a product that was coming in here at the new plant here in Essex Junction. And so that kind of curtailed my opening chance at driving a race car at Catamount in the spring of '65. So my tour of training ended in September of that fall, basically, and I did get to run the last 2 races of the season at Catamount, 200-300 yards up through the back meadow here on one of the probably one of the nicest third miles in the Northeast. It really hurt to see it shut down. But anyways, first race in September, and I was, everybody else has been racing all season long, and I don't know where I finished, probably somewhere between 15th and 20th. The final race of the season, and I was talking with Lenny Stockwell when he came in here tonight. Lenny was a regular, and I said, Lenny, I don't know if you remember it, but anyways, during the course of that final race at Catamount, you spun out up in turns 1 and 2, and caution came out. I managed to go by and without hitting you, but the caution out, I drove all the way around the track, and I ran into him on the next time by with the caution out. And he said, no, I don't remember it, but he says that's the way things go. And it was all, it was all downhill from there. Through the months we, fixed the car, got it up and going. But anyways, it was a learning experience, and truthfully, the win percentage that Justin mentioned in my second year, I barely remember it, but it was due to Well, a couple of the guys are here tonight of our group of 5. We're down to 3 of us that are left at this point, but John Kiefer and Frankie Woodard were probably my 2 guys that were so responsible for the success that I got all the recognition for. But we've discussed it over time, and you'll never hear me say that I won a race. I'll always say we won the race that night, and it's because it was certainly a team effort, and that's what this whole sport is about. It's a team effort, whether it's guys that are regulars or volunteers that help out in any way they can, that like the sport. That's what's made it so special all these years for us. I've been lucky over the long haul to have driven for several different car owners from anywhere from Maine to New Hampshire to Vermont and so on. The Browns, Don Robertson, Dave and Donna Smith from Maine, Jack Houghton. The list goes on and on. Quint Bovier in the Skoll car. We managed to win races, and it was through their efforts that made my job, I won't say easy, but in a way of me getting all the recognition. This award is great, but the guys that were backing me up and providing me with a car that was capable of winning the majority of the time was so good. This area had the notoriety of so many outside racers that came in and joined what we were doing here in the late model sportsman ranks through the 70s. I mean, we had Dave Dion showed up from Massachusetts. First one was John Rosati. Robbie Crouch from Tampa, Florida, spent summers here racing. Randy LaJoy, Joey Carafas, the best of the best, and the talent that was here during that time frame was so deep. I know I'm forgetting names that of other guys that were certainly capable of winning any night out, and that's what we were up against. But it was some great times, and when the series split and Tom went with the Pro Stock type cars, and the Busch North Series was being formed. The series kind of split down the middle. Some guys stayed with what they had, a NASCAR type metal body cars, and some decided to go with Tom with the Pro Stock type cars. But both series actually thrived because we were so deep in real good competition here on a weekly basis, and time again during the course of the summers we'd have Ken's connections with Daytona and so on. We'd see the likes of Bobby Allison roll in here, Tiny Lund. The list went on and on. Your points chasers, Harry Gant, Butch Lindley, L.D. Ottinger, Bob Presley. We raced against all of them in a lot of the national championship races here, that they were here for the points that were involved in those shows. And so we beat them at times. They probably beat us more often, but they upped the game for us. And when we got to Thunder Road, Dave Dion was head and shoulders above a lot of those guys. Dave was the guy at Thunder Road, no question about it. But anyways, those were some great times. We saw the best of the best right here, weekly, or I shouldn't say weekly, but every few weeks they'd show up for a national championship race, and it was some great times. During the week leading up to the Oxford 250s, that was the one race that the majority of us all were hoping to be able to put on our resume as far as having won an Oxford 250, and from the start of the season to mid-July, when the Oxford 250 would roll in with Bob Bear's Oxford Plains, it was focused on that one particular race. When that race was over and you went home, the second half of the season seemed secondary at that point. I mean, we still had some big races to go, but the Oxford 250 was where the big money was. And sad to say, that was one race that I never won. Some of the guys won it multiple times, but we just never quite pulled it in. But hats off to the guys that were able to get it done. But anyways, it was some great times that I look back on and say we were dedicated, but it was a situation of teamwork that were responsible for the wins. I'll take the credit for having lost some races that probably shouldn't have. I'll say I was responsible for that. But as far as winning goes, it was the guys that were behind me that were making the job that much easier for me, and I really appreciate it. And I'd like to give while I'm still here, a shout out to the Corshane brothers from Quebec. This is a car that they've resurrected. It was one of our mid '70s chassis that we had built by Emmanuel Zervakis in Richmond, Virginia. It was built to the same specs as the house car that Sonny Hutchins drove for them throughout the Richmond area, and North Carolina, and so on. And there weren't two names any bigger than Sonny Hutchins and Ray Hendrick in the Richmond area. They were the best, and we went down, worked on the car to finish it up and bring it home, and the car had a lot of success. And the Corshanes were a couple of young guys from Quebec that came down with their dad to the races here at Catamount during the 70s, and one of them was a John Paul Cabana fan, which I can certainly understand that, and the other was a Bobby Dragon fan, and they researched an advertisement for an ex-Dragon chassis that George McRae here in Milton had. He bought it and ran it as a late model for a couple of years, and then called it quits. And he stripped it, not figuring that it might be worth something at some point. And they came down and verified that it was in fact a Zervakis car, and it was one of our cars. And so they bought it, brought it back to Quebec, and rebuilt it to exactly what it was, a Nova-bodied Chevrolet in its first time out, with that current Lum's advertisement on it. In later years, we ran it as a Pontiac, as a Buick, never as an Oldsmobile, but a Chevrolet as well. And so, hats off to them. They've made several voyages around shows with the car, and I couldn't be more proud of the job that they did. It's really well done, and right to the specs of everything that car originally had. One last thing, and probably not the least by any means, is my sweetheart wife now, classmate of 56 years. I just want to say, without her support all these years, as far as everything that we did in racing. And like Justin said, there was a point where we raced 5 nights a week, and everybody involved had a job that wasn't their. Racing wasn't a money-making thing. If the car could run well enough to pay the bills, that was our goal, and we pretty much accomplished that. But night after night, we'd come home from an Oxford Plains Getty Series 100-lapper in the middle of the night and get home at 4 o'clock in the morning, enough time to take a shower and head for work. And we did that time and time again. There was a couple seasons where we ran upwards of 70 races, and that's pretty unheard of at this point in time. But it was a passion that we all had, and we made the best of it. And without like I said, the volunteers that helped out so much as being part of the crew. I mean, time and time again, we'd race on a Saturday night at Catamount and head for a Sunday afternoon race at San Air, with a busted up race car that had to be worked on through the night just to be ready to head for San Air the next morning. Volunteers were such a big part of keeping what we were trying to do going, and I can't stress enough the fact that those people were so important with us, and it was something they enjoyed doing, and we certainly could feel the best of it. My wife, on the other hand, she didn't get to go to all of the races, or maybe a lot of the races, but I certainly had her support through all of the weekends that were interrupted, holiday weekends, one thing or another. We were racing, but she was there to support our efforts, and she was my rock all those years, and without her support, I couldn't have done it. I want to say I love you. Thank you very much.
One of the founding fathers of modern-day stock car racing in Vermont, dairy farmer C.V. Elms, is inextricably woven into the fabric of Bear Ridge Speedway. But that's only a piece of what he contributed to the sport. An accomplished tractor puller, Mr. Elms owned stock cars in the early 1960s, employing drivers from his hometown of North Haverhill, New Hampshire, to steer them. His pilots included George Whitney, all of the Ingerson brothers, and Stanley Stubb Fadden with the car that you see here in the showroom, on both dirt and paved tracks, primarily at Northeastern Speedway in Lower Waterford, but also at Barry's Thunder Road. Early entries were in the Class A flathead coupes before the formation of the new Class B semi-late model division, which is a fancy name for Flying Tigers. The 1964 season was particularly successful, as Mr. Elms was named president of the United Racing Club, which oversaw operations at the Northeastern Speedway, and the race car that he owned, that one right there, was an absolute rocket ship. Mr. Elms and Stubb Fadden went on a tear, winning 4 times at Northeastern and the track championship at Thunder Road. And making the title a little bit sweeter, and we talked about this tonight, was perhaps the fact that his crosstown North Haverhill rival, Bill White, finished second in the point standings. Change was on the horizon, though. As the years wore on, the World War II era coupes that built stock car racing were all but gone. Thunder Road dropped them after 1965, and Northeastern closed completely after 66. But George Barber, who owned the famous 46 and 47 coupes at Thunder Road, he wanted to save the coupes. So he built a new 5th-mile dirt track up on the mountain in the woods of Bradford for 1968, and he called it Bear Ridge Speedway. And he made the old coupes the only division on the card, with flathead engines as the only available power plant option. Chuck Elms was there from day one, helping to construct the facility and serve as a race day official. After the completion of the 5th season, in September of 1972, he was part of a 4-man group of track employees who purchased the facility. Using the knowledge and experience that he gained not only at Northeastern Speedway, but also from his time before that in the operations of the New Hampshire Snowmobile Association and the Connecticut Valley Snowmobile Club, Bear Ridge thrived on Friday nights with the Coups as the show. Rather than acquiesce to the modern technology that continued to creep in, he made the conscious choice to keep Bear Ridge a place that honored old traditions, and he ensured that the centerpiece division of that track would always be the Coups that made racing so popular in America, and that tradition remains today. Though it was somewhat rustic and evoked memories of a previous time, Bear Ridge Speedway was and remains the clear leader among the Connecticut Valley dirt tracks, well, and the paved tracks too, with the best drivers, the most cars, and the best racing. Weekly stars included Paul Parker, Ralphie Steigels, Brother Eastman, Bob Moore, Jim Courier, Pete Dunn, Frank Keane, Bob Shepard, who is still racing, the Pearson family, the Beatty brothers, the Ingersons, Greg Frost, Butch Burbank, I could go on, including Mr. Elms' son, CV III, who became a 7-time track champion himself. Mr. Elms sold Bear Ridge Speedway to his son at the end of the 1989 season, and the track continues to be celebrated nationwide as the home of the Coups still today. Chuck Elms did pass away in October 1993, so tonight we honor his legacy and welcome him to the charter class of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame. And accepting on his behalf tonight, please welcome his son, the promoter of Bear Ridge Speedway, CV Elms III.
Yeah, he was right. Dad started the Ingerson boys, every one of them. Stubby ran a race at Waterford as a mechanics race. Won that. Actually, Bill White's car. And the next year, they started a claiming class. Had a 39 Ford. Stubby rolled it over and lost a motor and this and that. Then this thing came along. What it was 58 Ford. Stubby looked at it, he said, nah, that ain't gonna work. Nope. Well, let's try it. So off came the roof, off came the fenders and everything else. Made it work. First night, I think he finished second with it. Brought it home and said, let's see if we can find out where those spark plug wires go. He said, we can't see the spark plugs. There's so much dust and dirt around them. Then after that, Stubby went pretty well. As Justin said, went to Thunder Road, went to Catamount, raced against Beaver, and Stubby had a few good comments up there. And kind of fun to listen to some of those old comments once in a while. In early '66, Stubby decided he'd run 3 or 4 races with us and decided he wanted to go a little bit better, so he wanted to go NASCAR North. Went to Thunder Road with his own 55 Chevrolet, and Dad had a race car with no driver. And this tall, lanky guy from St. Johnsbury chased my father all night because we took the car to the racetrack with no driver. And Father said to me, he says, what do you think? I was only 12 at the time. And I said, wow, you ain't got no driver. Yep, I know. But, you know that guy that's wants to drive this thing tonight? I said, yep. I think he blew up 13 motors in 1 year for his other car owner. God, he said, I don't think I can do that. I said, Stubby's done well with it. And of course, a lot of you people around here know Stubby. The next guy to get into it was Johnny Gamble. and Johnny finished the year out with it. And that was the last year that car ran. But it was a lot of fun. Dad loved racing. That was just part of what he wanted to do. And it was never anything to make money with. It was his sport. You know, a lot of people like baseball or soccer or basketball. He loved racing. And he loved the guys out there that was racing. Tried to do it as inexpensive as he could. He used to come home from Boston, Massachusetts on his cattle run and bring back some M&H tires for guys like George Barber and those guys there. George would give my father hell every time he get a tire, which was probably twice a year. He said, Chuck, he says, from now on, he said, if you do this, he said, I wished you'd clean the calf shit off these tires, because he put them in his cattle truck and brought them home. George didn't like doing that, but anyway, the Ingerson boys are all good friends, right from North April, and Dad would be proud to be here tonight. I want to thank everybody.
Vermont native and drag racing superstar Shirley Muldowney became a worldwide pop culture icon for her tenacity, her speed, her raw talent. Born Shirley Ann Rock in Burlington, she was raised on a South Hero farm on the shores of Lake Champlain by a family with strong Green Mountain roots. Her mother, Mabel, was from Salisbury down in Addison County. Her father, whose name was Belgium Benedict Rock, he went by Tex Rocky. I think you can imagine why. He was a well-known musician and a Golden Gloves boxer from Grand Isle. Her uncle John Rock was a Vermont state representative, kind of the opposite of a Golden Globes boxer. Drag racing became an obsession in Shirley's teenage years. After running countless street races, she ran her first organized event at the Fonda Speedway in 1958 and began winning at drag strips all over the Northeast, including right up the road here in Milton, mere minutes from her childhood home. Running in the top gas division, the girl known as Cha-Cha was a major promotional draw. Her match races with Big Daddy Don Garlitz packed grandstands coast to coast. Shirley became the first woman to be granted a license by the NHRA in 1965, despite opposition from every angle. Moving up to funny cars, she won her first event with the IHRA at Rockingham, North Carolina in 1971. She moved to the Top Fuel Rail Dragsters, drag racing's peak, in 1973, and became the NHRA's first female Top Fuel winner in 1976 at Columbus, Ohio, and again at the World Finals at Ontario, California. Shirley made global headlines in 1977 when she won her first NHRA Top Fuel World Championship. And she backed it up by becoming the first person, male or female, to win a second title in 1980, and then the first to win a third in 1982. In between those years, she raced the AHRA in 1981, and she won its national championship as well. Deservedly, she earned the tagline, the First Lady of Drag Racing. The feature film, Heart Like a Wheel, based on the life of Shirley Muldowney, was released in 1983, earning a Golden Globe nomination. The next year, though, Shirley suffered life-threatening injuries in a crash up north at Saint Air. She was out of the seat for 2 years, returning in 1986, but not before appearing on the Johnny Carson show and using a cane to walk across stage. Though underfunded and without a major sponsor for the majority of the rest of her career, she returned to NHRA's Top Fuel Victory Lane at Phoenix in 1989 and won 3 times with IHRA in 1996. Shirley retired from driving in 2003 at age 63 after a 45-year career of drag racing. Among her many honors and awards, she was ranked number 5 on the NHRA's list of top 50 drivers in 2001 and number 21 in ESPN's list of top 25 greatest drivers. At 85 years old, she remains active in the sport and is a celebrated figure in pop culture. She was honored by Hot Wheels with her own line of collectible cars, and she is still referenced in music and art. Any of you 90s kids will remember the rock band Soul Asylum. Last year, their album was named Slowly But Surely and had a picture of her doing a burnout on the cover. Her focus is now her foundation, Shirley's Kids, which serves underprivileged youth in cities where the NHR races. And in fact, that's why she is unable to join us tonight. She's in Charlotte, North Carolina tonight. She flies to Houston, Texas tomorrow. And on Wednesday, she goes to Indianapolis. So she's a busy lady. Still, we want to welcome her and celebrate her one more first in her career, as Shirley Muldowney is the first woman inducted into the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame. And with that, we do have a video message from Shirley.
Let me thank you all for the invitation to attend tonight. I would have loved to have been there, but my schedule with Shirley's Kids Charity just wouldn't let me go. Maybe next year. Save me a seat, please. I spent a lot of years in Vermont, out on South Hero, West Shore Road on my uncle's farm, and I did everything, baled hay and milled cows. I did it all, and I learned a lot about, farm life and animals, which I, appreciated throughout my years. From there, 15 years later, I pulled into Milton, Vermont with a 426 Hemi Plymouth on the trailer, and a guy that we raced against, Charlie Lundrum, had a 426 Dodge. The only thing is, he had a standard shift and I had push buttons. That was the difference between winning and losing. It was the only time my father ever saw me drive competitively. He never got to see the big cars. He died young. Something they didn't play in the movie, Heart Like a Wheel. But from there, we kept the cars on the trailer. We're gonna hassle this promoter. We're gonna be big time. At least we thought we were. And as it turned out, we're negotiating with the promoter, and my husband Jack said to me, "Well, how much did we get at ATCO?" Gee, I think around 150. We had never been through the gate of ATCO. That was a wild dream of ours to race ATCO, New Jersey. But we used that trick to get $150 that day, and we won 2 out of 3. And again, my dad got to see it. He was thrilled. I can't imagine how he would have felt watching a top fuel dragster go 300 plus mile an hour. But from there, Milton, I came back with a little B-gas dragster, ran 150 miles an hour. The track was good to me. The fans were elbow to elbow. They packed them in there, didn't even have grandstands. The people would stand at the rope. How dangerous? Oh my goodness. We didn't think of things like that. Guardrails? No. Ambulance? Never entered our mind. So we moved on. Never went back to Milton, but I would hear stories, and it was all very encouraging until I got this book in later years, and it was called Lost Drag Strips. And on the cover was a picture of what once was Milton Dragway. The grass was this tall. The signs were falling off the fences. It was really dilapidated, and there would never be any more racing there. It was a perfect candidate for that book. I wondered how it got on the cover. But from there, I went on. I went to my first nitro car in 1971. Little did I know what this whole thing was going to turn into. That I would gain 14 Hall of Fames, 4 world championships, well over 25 national event wins, NHRA, IHRA, AHRA. I hit them all. There was not a car out there that I didn't race and wasn't able to put in my book of victims. I did that too. That was my attitude as a racer. I had to be tough. I like to use the word strong rather than tough. But whatever it took, I was able to survive it and go on to a retirement in 2003, which was the year I ran my quickest and fastest ET in mile per hour of my entire career. That's when we ran the quarter mile, not the 1,000 foot. That's an insult. We don't talk about 1,000 foot racing. Quarter miles, what the sport is based on. And I ran 4:52 at 327.66 miles per hour. So that's 328, anybody's money. From there, I get to do personal appearances, such as, this is the first one I've ever missed, absolute first one. And I want to congratulate all of the inductees. I know that I'm with really good company, well-deserved company, and I want to congratulate all of you. Let's meet again next year. I know you'll save a seat for me. Enjoy your evening, everyone. I heard the food is wonderful. Take care. God bless you all. Thank you.
The great Shirley Muldowney. C.J. Richards was once labeled a maverick in a magazine article by Ron Hedger, and with pretty good reason. Never afraid to spearhead a controversy, he embraced the my way or no way approach. But he also had the charisma to diffuse a bad situation. And I can give you a great example. He once famously neutralized an angry driver strike mob by handing out free beer. I wish we had that today. He raced jalopies at Mallett's Bay in the late 50s before taking a different approach. At age 25, in 1962, he leased the abandoned Fairhaven Fairgrounds and revived the Fairmont Speedway. That same year, he leased a half-mile track at the Vermont State Fairgrounds in Rutland and held the Vermont State Championship race. Though it was a dusty, dangerous track that had far too many huge crashes, it was immensely popular, drawing a crowd of 10,000 people. And you can look in the programs and see the picture of the people hanging out of the side of the Arts and Crafts building at the Rutland Fairgrounds to see this race. Suddenly, a half-century career of promotion was born, and the Champlain Valley Racing Association began. With Fairmont successful in drawing cars from all over New England and New York, CJ took over the loosely organized Otter Creek Speedway in Waltham for a single season in 1963. He did continue with Fairmont and Rutland, but his program quickly outgrew itself, and the city fathers in both towns wanted racing out. The solution was in attractive family-owned farmland up the road in West Haven, so CJ and his father Leon built the brand new half-mile Devil's Bowl Speedway and opened it in June of 1967. Devil's Bowl was a big hit with stock cars in the summer and snowmobiles in the winter, but CJ always wanted more. Despite success on dirt, he paved Devil's Bowl in 1971, and he also purchased Airborne Park Speedway, running a 2-track CVRA modified circuit. Although he had big names, including Richie Evans, CJ dumped the modifieds in '72 and partnered with Ken Squire to bring in the Northern NASCAR Circuit late models as the weekly attraction at both tracks. It didn't work. CJ bailed at Airborne after 1972, and he put the dirt back on Devil's Bowl for '75. Again, never satisfied, he bought the dormant Albany-Saratoga Speedway, which was paved, and in 1977 he put dirt over that track too. He did sell Devil's Bowl the next year during the energy crisis of '78, but in '82 he repurchased both Devil's Bowl and Airborne, expanding the CVRA to 3 weekly tracks. During that period, he also climbed back behind the wheel again in Volkswagen Mini Modifieds, winning a pair of features at Albany-Saratoga. And at the same time as running 3 weekly tracks of his own, his family also managed the food concessions at Thunder Road and Catamount, so they were at it 5 nights a week. CJ maximized the usage potential of his facilities, so along with weekly racing, the CVRA tracks often hosted tractor pulls, go-karts, ATV races, motorcycle races, snowmobiles, fairs, carnivals, and concert festivals. CJ ran his tracks for a single year under the dirt sanctioning body in 1984, but he was so dissatisfied and very inspired. He once again embraced his role as a maverick in the industry and shocked the region by eliminating big block modifieds at his tracks for 85 and introducing the less expensive 358 small block engine package. 40 years on, the 358 is still a hallmark of dirt racing today. He was also one of the very first to mandate a track tire in his weekly divisions. And how many of us remember those heavy old Towel City retries? We ran them at Thunder Road. I know you guys ran them on the dirt at Devil's Bowl as well. He downsized by selling Airborne after 1987, but the CVRA was so white hot, it had elite drivers with Brett Hearn, Jack Johnson, Kenny Tremont, C.D. Coville, and he also had the ability to grow local talent capable of beating those guys. The Ronca brothers, the Proctor family, Dave Camara, Vince Quinville, Todd Stone, Mike Bruno, Gene Munger, Timmy LeDuc, Jimmy Ryan, and so many more. The Hot Summer Night Series and the CVRA versus the World were can't-miss events for race fans of any persuasion. Quite deservingly, CJ was named the Northeast Promoter of the Year by the RPM organization in 1997. As he aged, he began to turn control of Devil's Bowl and Albany-Saratoga over to his sons, Bruce, Jerry, and Tim, and his daughter Sharon. He also spent time as a car owner on the NASCAR Busch North Series, first with Mike Bruno on his way to the 1999 NASCAR Busch North Series Rookie of the Year title, and later with Derek Lynch at the wheel. Creative to the very end, CJ tried one final experiment by paving Devil's Bowl and Albany-Saratoga again in 2010 with the hope of diversifying his shows for the future. Unfortunately, his health turned during that period, and he sold both tracks in the winter of 2011 before his passing shortly after in February 2012. Devil's Bowl continues on today under the Bruno family, and Albany-Saratoga remains strong under the controls of Howard Commander and Lyle DeVore. Tonight, we honor the memory of CJ Richards as a charter member of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame. To accept, please first welcome his wife, Joanne Richards, and then his son, Bruce Richards.
Good evening. I'm Joanne Richards, and I came into CJ's life later on in life, so I don't really have any great stories to tell, but I do know that it all started with him just racing his car around town. He realized he couldn't make a living racing, and so the passion he had for this sport was to see it be the best it could be. And he loved motorsports. It was his life. I do know how proud he would be to be one of the first inductees into the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame. I'm personally touched by this honor. Thank you.
Everybody else that's not here with us today. And we should just take a moment to reflect back to them that aren't here with us today, that put so much into motorsports here in Vermont. CJ loved motorsports, he loved his family, he loved his dog. I ended up taking that dog from him after my mom got sick from cancer and Dad couldn't take care of the dog, and I ended up taking care of the dog. And CJ loved his family. When the most thing I miss about Dad was his stories. And there was a couple of them I'd like to tell, and there's a couple people in this room that I saw earlier. Beaver. Dad loved to fly his little airplane around. He flew from Devil's Bowl, Fairhaven, to Saratoga, to Plattsburgh. One day, CJ took a fishing trip up to Milton. He came home from that fishing trip after going to see beaver, and he said, "You would not believe what just happened to me today." I said, "What?" He said, "I landed my plane to go see beaver, taxied down this little runway, and I definitely landed in the wrong spot. They all came running down the runway, no clothes on, junk flying, everything else." He goes, "I landed in a nudist colony." What? "Yeah, that's what happened." He goes, "I turned that plane around, I took back off, and I flew around a little bit, and finally I found beaver and we went fishing." Gardner Stone, I don't know what happened on that jet boat that day, but CJ went out on Lake Champlain with Gardner, and Gardner, you know how he is with his jet tractors. Dad said, "He brought me out on Lake Champlain, and oh my God, he took that thing off, and I'm telling you right now, I was scared to hell with that thing. I will never, ever get in anything with that man again." But he had a great time, loved his family, and we all should celebrate. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, the Hall, everybody that puts so much work into this. I know that he would definitely be sitting down and saying thank you to all you. Joanne, my mom, my brothers, my sister, my mom, Judy, stood by him like a rock. And I said to my dad, and I've said to people, my dad got lucky twice finding my mom. And then after my mom died, he got lucky again finding that woman right there who stood by him right until the very end. So everybody, during this Christmas time of season, when you got time with your family, give them all a big hug, and thank you all, and have a good off season, and we'll be back next year.
Henley Dean Squire. Born in Waterbury in 1935, the son of a radio station operator, Ken found an interest in auto racing at an early age while attending state and county fairs, watching bobtailed Indianapolis-style cars work around dusty half-mile tracks as promoters like Sam Nunes and announcers like Chris Economaki informed audiences about the competitors and kept them abreast of the dangers they faced and the death that they cheated at every turn. Is that a good Squire impression? Okay. It was all too much to contain, so young Kenley got involved. At 15, he began working as an announcer at a hayfield track in Morrisville. Then he'd race home to provide reports of the action for listeners on WDEV. He promoted his first event at age 16 at the Barton Fairgrounds. Not the Fart and Bear, the Barton Fair, in 1951. And worked at various speedways throughout the decade, including Northeastern Speedway, Mallett's Bay Raceway, and the Cheshire Fairgrounds in Keene, New Hampshire. Even as a teenager, Ken had a keen eye for telling stories and creating wonderful characters that fans could identify with. Ronnie Rollover Farnsworth, Harold Cannonball Baker, the Flying Frenchman Normand Chaloux, the Fighting Triah Brothers. They were among the early racers who Ken Squire built up. With the help of the Cooley brothers, Ken built his own track in Barrie, Thunder Road International Speed Bowl. He was just 25 years old when the curtain lifted on June 30th, 1960. The High Bank quarter-mile paved bull ring opened with mammoth crowds and operated on Thursday nights. So chosen, of course, because it aligned with payday for the local granite sheds and the state government employees. He wanted their money first. The track's biggest event, of course, was the Vermont Milk Bowl, which began in 1962 and was billed as the toughest short track race in North America. And of course, it gave the winner an opportunity to kiss the local beauty queen, which is a dairy cow. He repeated the building process in 1965, right here in Milton, just 10 minutes from the state's largest city. Catamount Stadium was a longer, faster, 1/3 mile track and became a showplace for stock car racing, featuring many national stars moonlighting in short track events. All the while, Ken traveled to Florida every February for NASCAR's Daytona 500, and he made his way into the inner circle, befriending NASCAR founder Bill France Sr. After working as the track announcer, he co-founded the Motor Racing Network with Bill France in 1970, providing the lap-by-lap call for hundreds of affiliate radio stations. Back home, as the success of the weekly Flying Tiger class evolved, Ken morphed the cars into the more sophisticated NASCAR late model sportsman rules of the South and created the Northern NASCAR circuit in 1971. Initially just 2 tracks, Catamount and Thunder Road. It expanded mid-season when Saint-Air opened its short track up in Quebec. By '72, it was 5 nights a week, with Airborne in Plattsburgh, which he also held the promotional keys to for a brief time, and at Devil's Bowl down in West Haven, plus specials at Oxford Plains in Maine, Seacock Speedway in Massachusetts, and big tracks throughout Canada. The year 1979 was a big one. Ken convinced CBS to televise the Daytona 500 live, flag to flag for the first time. We all know how that went. The broadcast, with his call of the frantic final lap and the post-race fistfight involving Cale Yarborough and the Allison brothers, was an overwhelming success and single-handedly thrust NASCAR into the American consciousness. 2 months later, Ken and his business partner, Thomas Michael T-Bone Curley, debuted the ultra-successful NASCAR North Tour to travel around the northeastern U.S. and Canada. As his star rose on television, Squire had Catamount until its closing in 1987, and then co-owned Airborne with Tom Curley from 1990 to 2007. He was the mainstay in NASCAR through 2000, and was featured in NBC's Darlington Throwback Specials through 2017, the same year that Thunder Road was sold. Ken Squire, of course, I don't have to tell you, was the warm, folksy, trusted voice of NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, and the IROC series. He coined many expressions still used in racing today, like the Great American Race for the Daytona 500, and the phrase, which I have absorbed, the common man doing uncommon deeds. He voiced many other sports on CBS, including the Olympics, where his call of short track speed skating, and it's on YouTube, and I encourage you to look it up, sounded more like a Flying Tiger heat at Thunder Road. He co-founded World Sports Enterprises in 1983, which was responsible for producing several popular television programs, and he won countless local and national media awards for print, radio, and television. Tonight's ceremony marks Ken Squire's 7th Hall of Fame induction, and the 3rd in which he was part of the charter class. Of course, the NASCAR Hall of Fame's annual Media Excellence Award is named in his honor, along with MRN's Barney Hall. Ken Squire passed away in 2023 at the age of 88, but it's safe to say that the majority of the people in this room would not be here without him. And so we welcome Kenley Dean Squire to the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame, and accepting on his behalf tonight, his daughter, Ashley Squire.
You forgot Rad, the movie Rad. It's a very important movie, part of Dad's career. I always thought that my dad was the luckiest guy I ever knew. He took what he loved the most and he turned it into this glorious, big, kick-ass career for his whole life. And a lot of the stories that Justin told, I wish we could run the tape on those. I wish that we could run the tape and see that little boy at the county fairs. He was dragged there because his dad was covering harness racing for WDEV, and Dad was bored of the harness racing and he found his way to the race cars. And he told me that he put himself, he was probably 6 or 7 years old, put himself in front of the grandstands so he could look in. And a car came by, and inside he saw this guy, and he was hot and sweaty and wearing like a tank top, no protection at all, and he was going so fast. And the thrill of that moment hooked Dad for life. And I would like to run the tape on that moment at C.C. Miller's pasture in Morrisville, Vermont, and watched Dad with his bullhorn calling what he called the epic battle between North and South, which I think was the guys from the Northeast Kingdom versus Washington County. But whoever it was, I would like to see the part on the tape where he and his friend Brian Harwood, who was with him there, jumped under the logging truck to avoid the brawl that ensued at the end of that particular event. What I would really like is maybe a series of TikTok videos of winter 1959, when Ken Squire and Lloyd Hutchins got into somebody's car and drove from Waterbury to Daytona because they had to see that race at that new super speedway they just built down there. Dad was just shy of 24 years old, and on the way home, what they talked about was, well, we got to build one in Vermont. And a year and a half later, we had Thunder Road, our little high-banked quarter-mile version of that giant 2.5-mile super speedway, where Dad did graduate from the bullhorn to the public address system a decade or so later. He did turn his love of motorsports after opening Thunder Road here and opening Catamount right here into a national career. And he did, whether you love it or right now maybe not so much, usher in the era of big NASCAR on big TV. And he did travel all over and called NASCAR races and Formula One races and frog jumping contests and swamp buggy races and World's Strongest Man competitions and the Acapulco cliff divers. Yes, and he did appear in Cannonball Run, Stroker Race, and again, rad. And there was talk every once in a while, I remember among my parents, it would cut down a lot of travel time if our family moved somewhere closer to the action. But that was really pretty much of a non-starter because what Dad had to have was home, and there was only one place that would be home, and it was here, and it was Vermont. It was no surprise that when he was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2018, the person he chose to induct him was our racing governor, Phil Scott. Because again, he loved NASCAR, but Vermont was home. And I want to finish with Dad's own words. Dad's last two interviews, fittingly, one was on the podcast Uncommon Deeds with Justin and Tom, and it was lovely. Explaining to Dad what this newfangled idea of a podcast was all about was sketchy, but he went along with it. But the other interview that he had was from NASCAR, because Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s team at Dirty Mo Media sent a crew up, and Andrew Kurland, an up-and-coming, very beginning of his career wannabe announcer, interviewed Dad. And in that interview, Dad said these words: "Vermont's a good place to be from. It's not a rich state as far as pecuniary means, but as far as a place that really has some feeling to it and people that are real, you can't beat Vermont. I love it, and I love the people. And I guess everybody feels that way about where they're from, but I really feel it here. It means so much. This here tonight means so much. I'm glad to be a part of the beginning of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame, and I'm more than honored on behalf of Travis and our family to recognize Dad and the gifts that Vermont gave to him as he got to live out his kick-ass career and all that he brought to motorsports in Vermont. Thank you all so much.
One of the biggest personalities in motorsports, I don't even need to point him out in the room, you can see him from where you are. Gardner Stone is one of the best straight line racers anywhere, on dirt or on asphalt, and he has entertained fans and racers alike for decades. He started racing right here at the Milton Dragway in 1964, where his Beckwith Motors sponsored Widowmaker street eliminator cars won on an almost weekly basis until the Dragway closed in 1970. In 1967, he traveled out to Niagara Falls for the NASCAR Summer Nationals, and yes, NASCAR sanctioned drag racing, and he won his class. After building G-Stone Motors down in Middlebury, he began tractor pulling in 1978. He bought a mini modified tractor despite never having seen the class in competition before. He debuted at Walton, New York. He drew the #1 pill as the first hook of the day, and with absolutely no knowledge of the division, he won. Full pull, 300 feet. For good measure, he won again in his second event in the mini mods at Albany-Saratoga Speedway. So to reiterate, the first two times that Gardner Stone ever saw the mini modified tractor pulling division was from the driver's seat and ultimately from victory lane. Gardner Stone dove headlong into the pulling sport and became an official for the Vermont Tractor Pullers Association. He also purchased 2 new sleds for the group. He added a full-size modified tractor called the Brigadier in 1979, and it carried a unique Allison aircraft engine and was successful on the Vermont and New York circuits. He debuted a new tractor called the General in 1983 for the NTPA, the National Tractor Pulling Association, winning the Region 1 championship 3 straight years. He built the twin-engine Mr. LTL, which stands for Loud, Tough, and Lethal, for NTPA Grand National events in '85, getting wins in Virginia, Wisconsin, and Ohio. Gardner then left his signature on the pulling world in 1988 with a new tractor dubbed the General Stage 4, a 12,000 horsepower monster with 4 flame-belching GE T55 Lycoming turbine engines, marking the first time in not only tractor pulling history, but American history, that 4 jet engines had ever been applied to anything in a single application, including military use. Reliability and victory started coming the next year, and in 1990, he won his first 2 NTPA Grand National Championships, sweeping both weight classes that year. With NTPA receiving national television coverage at the time, Gardner became a bit of a household name and a celebrity for his effusive personality and, of course, for the show that the General put on. As he dominated pulling, his son Todd began racing stock cars on the dirt in 1989, and Gardner joined him in 1990. And much like his tractor pulling debut a dozen years earlier, he won in his very first start, taking a pro stock victory down at Albany-Saratoga. He won 2 more times in 1992 and scored a modified win at Devil's Bowl in '94. Gardner returned his main focus to pulling near the end of the decade, earning his 3rd NTPA title in 1999, and then going back-to-back in '03 and '04. He retired as a 5-time NTPA Grand National Champion and still has the General in storage, just in case he feels the need to shake it down, and I think you do that every now and then, right? He jumped back into drag racing, though, with a Ford Mustang Cobra Jet in the early 2010s, and he earned his first NHRA Wally Trophy at the young age of 74, winning the 2015 Gator Nationals at Gainesville, Florida. Gardner served 3 years as the vice president of the World Pulling International Organization and used his business acumen to help bring both WPI and the NTPA out of financial despair. He was inducted into the NTPA Hall of Fame in 2014 and he supports his grandsons in their successful tractor pulling and dirt modified racing ventures. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the charter class of the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame, the General Gardner Stoner.
This is a great honor to be here. And I want to thank Justin and his team of putting this together. Also, I'd like to thank the Subaru team for allowing us to use their facility. It's wonderful. The other people that got this award, I would like to congratulate you. That is very nice, very good for all of us. We really, really appreciate it. I've been very lucky. I've done a lot of motorized sports. I'm a kid that never grew up. If it's motorized, competitive, makes a lot of noise, I probably had to try it. Not that I was good at a lot of it, but I just enjoyed it. I'm very, very lucky that my family are all competitors. My son is with me tonight, my grandson, they both run stock cars. I have a grandson that runs a stock car. I've got other ones that tractor pull. I've got a granddaughter that barrel races. And she also jumps horses. I mean, I'm very lucky that everybody in my family wants to be a competitor because we all enjoy it and we have a great time doing it. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for allowing me to be here, and have a good evening. Thank you.
So that concludes our inductee portion of the evening, but now we shift our focus from history to the present and ultimately the future with our first Racer of the Year award. So before I do this, I want to take a poll. Stand up if you competed in a race this year. A lot of you, a lot more of you. Come on, Taylor. Moody. Remain standing if you won a race this year. Okay. Remain standing if you won a championship this year. Remain standing if you were named the Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame's 2025 Racer of the Year in the middle of November and then won a race on Thanksgiving after that. While we aim to preserve history here, I'll be honest and tell you that we have established this award as a way to keep current fans interested in what we're doing. We need to be relevant with this Hall of Fame, and this is a way to do that. The racers who will win this award, though, deserve to be recognized among the best of all time. They've earned it. There were 20 competitors nominated from stock cars, from rally racing, from hill climbing, from autocross, from tractor pulling and motocross this year. Our committee conducted its own vote. We also gave the fans a voice with well over 500 responses. Brandon Gray won both. Only 28 years old, but already a veteran of 2 decades of motorsports competition. He has built a reputation as a drive anything, anywhere competitor, an accomplished winner and champion in stock cars, on dirt and asphalt, on snowmobiles, and in enduro and demolition derby events. He earned his 100th career stock car victory in 2025, part of 18 wins overall this season. Brandon raced at Thunder Road and at New Hampshire's Claremont Motorsports Park, competing in the late model divisions at both tracks and also the Super Street Class at Claremont. He dominated those Super Streets with 6 wins during the regular season, and he took the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series track championship there. Running his first full season in late models, he earned 1 victory at Thunder Road, 2 more at Claremont, and captured a hard-fought Rookie of the Year title at Thunder Road in the process. Then we get to the fun events. He won 3 Enduros, 2 on the dirt at Bear Ridge, and the famed People's Race, the Enduro 200 at Thunder Road. And for good measure, 5 demolition derbies, because he's insane. And like I said, his final win of 2025 came just 1 week ago today. A week ago today, in the Super Streets at Claremont at the annual Turkey Day Classic on November. It's been a long night, folks. Leave me alone. And while the 2024 season has nothing to do with tonight, it's worth mentioning that 18 wins this year was a down year by about half. He won almost 40 main events last year as well. The Gray family lineage includes Brandon's late father, Troy, his uncle Tim, his cousins Jason and Amanda, his grandfather Herb, all of whom have made their mark on Vermont motorsports. And in fact, Jason, his cousin, won his 6th consecutive modified track championship, 6 in a row at Bear Ridge this year, and was also nominated for this award. For tonight, we are thrilled to recognize the first ever Vermont Motorsports Hall of Fame Racer of the Year, Brandon Gray. Take your damn hat off. We go to the same barber shop. My God.
I'll do my best to keep it short and sweet. What a beautiful place we're here. Thank you to Vermont Sports Car. First and foremost, Justin, thank you, your team. None of this would be possible without Justin. Justin has done a ton for my racing over the years, and thank you. Just want to say thanks. My team, they keep me going. I think we're 35 or 38 races this summer, not much. We're going to regroup, push forward, and if we can get Nate on board, maybe 45, 50 next year. That's kind of the plan, you know. We just bought a race car again this morning for something to do. Don't know why. But I just want to say thanks to my group. Really, I think in modern day racing, you're only as good as your group, and my group is pretty great. So thanks to them, thanks to all you people, thanks to the board. It's an honor, and enjoy your night. Thank you.
Stop. My head's been shining up here all night. You can deal with it. You would just stand right here. Between him and me and Sweet, it's bad. It's bad. And Eddie, yeah, he's just sitting there. He had nothing to do with it. Yeah. Folks, what an incredible night this has been. It's been a hell of a last year for us putting this thing together. Again, I want to thank everybody on the committee for coming up with ideas, for keeping me pushing forward, and for ultimately coming together to recognize you. Like I said at the beginning, we finally have a place to celebrate our heroes. And this is a hell of a place to start. So thanks to Lance, thanks to Vermont Sports Car. I especially want to call out Tyler Berliner, who's standing at the front end of the 6 car back there. He's the guy who made all of this happen. Thank you for everything, Tyler, very much. I have no words of wisdom for you. I'm spent. I thank you all for coming. This has been an incredible night, a highlight of my life, and thank you. Let's party, I guess.